You ready? Okay. All right, you ready? Good evening. Thank you all for being here. At this time, I'll reconvene the La Quinta City Council meeting of Tuesday, April 16, 2013. At this time, I'd ask that you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart and repeat with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on an item which is on the agenda, I'd ask that you please fill out a request to speak form. It's a form like this. It's in the back of the room, and give it to our city clerk. At this time, anybody wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so. I do have one request to speak, and it's Brianna Sloan, Ms. Gonzalez, Madison Smith, and Molly Pease. Is that what it is? Please come up and give us your name and address for the record. Well, I had 4 names, and now there's 6 of you. But, all right, please go right ahead. I'm sorry, you know, we need to get you on the record. If you want to speak, you have to come up. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, we are here with LQMS Club Live, and we're here to try to pass a ordinance against smoking in public parks. Okay, we have done our research and we took a survey at our school. 44 out of 57 students see people smoking when they go to the park. 44 out of 57 students see people putting out cigarettes on the ground instead of properly disposing of them. 48 out of 57 students believe that people should not be allowed to smoke in public where children are present. We have also done our research in some cities in California that we found with no smoking policies in public parks are Los Angeles, Hemet, Santa Monica, Santa Barbara, Bakersfield, Irvine, San Diego, and San Jacinto.
We did research on secondhand smoke, and we found out that smokers are many reasons why other people get sick and die. There are at least 250 different toxic chemicals in each cigarette. Secondhand smoke causes more than 50 cancer-causing chemicals. There are some of the many reactions. The deadly fumes can cause lung cancer, asthma, bronchitis, heart disease, and many other effects. If you receive one of the more serious reactions, you may be looking at death or surgery.
We have a copy of the cities of Santa Monica and Irvine that bans smoking in public parks. It took us about 30 minutes to collect 4 bags of cigarettes from the Park of La Quinta.
I think they're making a point in that.
That is all for today. Thank you.
Okay. Ladies and one gentleman, thank you very much. As a former smoker, I appreciate what you're doing. I gave it up many years ago, but I wish everybody would give it up. It's to their own best benefit, that's for sure. Kathy, do you recall in our ordinances and that where we stand on our position with smoking in our parks?
We don't have an ordinance, but it would be very easy to bring one back because we were the attorneys for Irvine who drafted it.
I would love to bring it back.
Okay.
I strongly
Why
support
don't we
their
do that?
effort.
We'll have staff
Love
put
it.
this together and bring it back to the city.
Yes, thank you.
You bet. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for bringing this to our attention and that. Nothing worse than an ex-smoker, and I hate it. Good. Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to our confirmation of agenda. Are there any changes, additions, or deletions by staff?
Mr. Mayor, there's only one change, and it's already represented in the agenda, but I just wanted to bring it to people's attention that we're going to be having at this meeting our study session first before our business session, so we could give some background information for some of the business session discussion items.
Good, okay, thank you. By council members? Nothing? All right. We'll move on to presentations. Tonight we do have a proclamation to the Riverside County Department of Mental Health in honor of May 20, 2013 as Mental Health Month. We have a representative from the mental health. Oh, all right, there we are. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay. I didn't bring my cheaters with me, so I'm going to have to look at this closely. Accepting the proclamation for Riverside County Department of Mental Health is Sandra?
Nate.
Okay, thank you. Mental health is a critical for the well-being and vitality of our families, communities, and businesses. Mental health disorders and mental health problems can affect people of all backgrounds and stages of life. Mental Health Month is an observation each May, and I call upon everyone to recommend its increasing awareness and the understanding of mental illness and the need for appropriation and accessibility services for all people with mental illness. On behalf of the City Council, it is my privilege to present you with this proclamation, and thank you and your organization for all your efforts. There you are.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, they can hear you.
Oh, okay.
We're speaking to the audience right now.
Okay, I want to thank the City Council and the first responders, which are usually the police,
Yes.
and the fire department, dealing with a person with mental illness. As I have two sons, it's very difficult for anybody to be able to know what to do, and training is the key. And we thank you for making people aware that next month is Mental Health Month. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for all your efforts,
Thank
too.
you.
Normally, I continue with presentations when we have mayor and council members' items, but we have two items here that I think I would like to present to the audience, because there's more people here now than what would be when we do mayor and council members' items, which normally only have staff here. But there's two or three, actually, issues that came up before us just recently, and I would like to thank La Quinta High School and maybe send a letter to Ms. Salazar in regards to the information that I saw in the newspaper, where the graduation rates for La Quinta High School is the highest in the Coachella Valley, and I think that's wonderful. And we tie with Palm Springs in regards to dropout rates, and I think that's an outstanding position that our high school has put themselves into, of getting, what is it, over 95% graduation, and that's outstanding in that. And I think that I would like to recognize Ms. Salazar and the high school, La Quinta High School, for their efforts in getting this high school graduation rates as high as it is.
Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that also a copy of that letter be sent to the school board.
Okay.
Because it's with the support of the school board that the principals are able to achieve what they can. So
Right.
I think we could include them in their good decision-making.
Absolutely, in that. Secondly, and this is commendation to our police department. I received a letter from a gentleman, and I'd just like to read it so that people understand the efforts that our police department goes through. And it says, "Dear sir, I felt compelled to write you today after experiencing an outstanding public service by the La Quinta Police Department. I work as an investigator for a local public utility. The La Quinta Police Department consistently responds in an expeditious manner and is always courteous, professional, and proficient in apprehending suspects. Rest assured," and this is the last sentence, "rest assured that now we have settled in the valley, I will be purchasing a home in La Quinta where the streets are safe and I know my tax dollars go to good use. Job well done, La Quinta." And that. I love to get letters like this because I think it represents what we do and have here in the city of La Quinta. The second one is addressed to me again. It says, "Good morning, Mayor, and all connected with the beautiful city of La Quinta. I'm a resident and I love our community. I'm very proud of all the hard work everyone connected with the city does to keep our community as beautiful as it is. Thank you all. I would like to tell you also what a great job the people who do care for our parks. They are wonderful. Thank you. P.S. I also love our library." And that, again, these kind of things just make us feel good, makes us feel that we're doing something positive for our community, and that it's too easy to get criticism because people don't agree, but things like this come from people we don't even know that are out there in our community, and they recognize what we try and do. So again, I like to do this when people are here, that they understand some of the things that happen within our community coming from citizens that live here. So thank you. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, and that's written communications. We have none this evening. So I'll ask for approval of minutes of April 2nd.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second, please vote. Motion passes. We'll move on to the consent calendar, and hold on a second. I do have a request to speak, and it's in regards to consent calendar number 8, and I think maybe we'll have Helga Paul, if you would come up, give us your name and address for the record. Please come up before we go through an overall approval.
Yeah. I'm Helga Paul, and I live on 45395 Coldbrook Lane, right on the other side of the wall of this land in question. And I've been here before, and you probably remember. Yes. And it has not gotten any better. It has gotten worse, especially in the last year, probably the worst we ever had. And
you're talking dust?
I'm talking about the tumbleweeds, the dust, and the sand.
Yeah.
I have everything here, and I'm speaking for everybody who lives on that wall, because most people do work. I know they're concerned, but they have given up. They've given up hope, because we've been strung along, and everybody telling us in 2 weeks we're going to start something, and this has been going on for the last 8 months, and nothing has been done. The land is just sitting there, unprotected, just sand, nothing else, and it cannot go on like that. No. Something has to be done. And so I just like you to please approve something, anything, yes, so that we can live in peace, because nobody can live like that.
Well, there is a project that we've approved. They're moving forward on it.
Right.
But
I know, I'm speaking for that.
I'm concerned with the stabilization. We're not stabilizing that soil out there?
It hasn't been done since last year.
The owner.
But we need to enforce that. Code enforcement needs to go after them.
Well, they've been working on it, so has the AQ, and whatever the name is, I can't even deal with them anymore, and nobody has done nothing. Nothing.
Okay. Well, we will.
But it's too late now. The damage is already done, you know. And every time they're telling everybody, oh, we're going to start. But nothing has ever started. There is not even water there. There is nothing. There's nothing.
Well.
As we're speaking, I have water going in the back of the wall where I live. Yeah. And I still had it all come in. So what can a person do?
We need to have staff come back
Yes.
with a report.
Yes.
You know, the thing is,
And
could this not been,
like tomorrow.
could this not be approved so that somebody could start something? I mean, that's really why I'm here. I'm speaking for this. Can
I
you
see
not
your
just-
frustration, but, we can't tell a developer, get started tomorrow.
I
We
know,
haven't
but they've
even
been-
submitted
they've
the
been-
plans, I don't imagine, for approval.
But
So
they are-
that's up to the developer and that. But what we can do is enforce the stabilization.
Right.
And enforce, to keep the dust down and get rid of the tumbleweeds. There's no reason for tumbleweeds to be out there.
They're there. So
One of the-
I'm just here I thought maybe you discussed the land first, and then I would speak, because I don't know how it works. No. But I'm here really so that something could be done to have these, whatever the requests are approved, so that they could get on with the development.
Yeah.
That's really why I'm here, so that something is going to start,
Yeah.
you know?
Understand in that. Let us see what we can do, at least. for
If
the-
I may, this is a conditional approval. This is so that they can go proceed with the final map. The council could add a condition to have Public Works verify that they're in compliance with all requirements regarding that are applicable to the track, as an additional condition that has to be satisfied before Tim will sign off on their final. So, because I'm assuming that there must be they have dust control plans, and there must be something that Tim could do.
Just to enforce the current dust control measures. I mean, that's the first thing,
Yes.
just for enforcement.
Nobody did.
We will.
So
We
you
will make sure of
could, you
it.
could
Well-
modify that approval to add that item, add that as one of the conditions that had to be satisfied before Tim will sign off on it.
So what is holding the project up? Because they're blaming it on the city of La Quinta. It's going back and forth. This is really what it is. So what is holding it up? Who can you trust?
Well, any developer that has an empty plot of land out there is responsible for soil stabilization and PM10 control. So regardless if they're going to build anything on it or not, there's requirements. So while they might say that we're not going to do any of that because we're wanting to build something, and they're saying that our delay in approval, we're looking at approving a final map that is almost done on their part. There's still a few steps to take place, but yet we're willing to consider a final map approval so they can proceed. It hasn't been a delay here. It's still their land responsibility, and they could have stabilized that land before anything was even planned for that land. That's really their responsibility. So they are incorrect if they're blaming the city, in my opinion, and I definitely would suggest an amendment to make this a condition
Sure.
based
And-
on
Yeah.
the information received.
And now may I say this? And now they're blaming the water company too, because they, for some reason, have not put a metered thing out there. And I don't know how that can be taken so long, because there's nothing out there. I mean, the water company, I'm sure it doesn't take a month to put this thing there.
Well, you've certainly brought us
But there
enough,
must be other things behind the whole thing.
yeah, you've brought us enough questions that we need to get answers for, but most importantly, we do need to condition the item before us that on the ground stabilization, that is taken care of immediately.
That has to be done immediately.
And then your
because
other
that cannot
questions
not-
will-
After all the wins we have now, this cannot go on.
We'll have staff bring back a progress report on the other issues.
But everybody was hoping that they would start building.
Well,
So this
let us
land is
get-
finally covered,
Staff knows that they can get on it tomorrow, and let's see how fast we can move with the developer, the property owners, to get that thing stabilized so that you won't have it, and get rid of the tumbleweeds and things like that.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention, but, we're getting it to staff and say, do it, take care of it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helga. And then, okay. That's all we had a request, so,
Wasn't there a gentleman that was going to come up too?
no, I only had one request to
Oh,
speak.
okay.
Oh,
So-
you want to come? Sure, please come forward.
I thought there was a gentleman that,
I thought Mark Bruce was going to be here from our civil engineers. I'm Mark Lone with Lenity Architecture, and we're here on behalf of the developer. We've worked with Helga. I work with Dan Roche, just so you know, at my office. We are extremely eager to start this project.
Yeah, we are
And that's
too.
one of the reasons that I got on a plane and flew down here this morning to make sure that we could get this past the consent agenda to continue to move forward. We will be glad to continue to work, because we have been working on site stabilization there. It's a difficult task in that site. The way it's set up, the orientation, we have sprayed and sprayed and sprayed that site. We will continue to do so, but the answer is let's get this project going. And we are very eager to work with staff, with Helga, and with you guys to get this moving and to get the ground stabilized, by all means.
Oh, we approved it. It's a beautiful
Okay.
project.
Yeah. We're looking forward to being a part of La Quinta. We
Okay.
really are.
Now,
Thank you.
Yes.
Helga wasn't real sure about everything that you said as you were saying it. And I don't want to have that conversation
Appreciate that.
between you and Helga right now. You can have that out there if
And
you
we
want.
will. We'll chat
We
afterwards.
want to see something done over there tomorrow on ground stabilization. You said we
Tumbleweed
sprayed and
removal.
sprayed and sprayed. I've never seen any evidence of the sprayed.
I will get on the phone when I get out of this meeting, and I will call staff, and we will see what we can do about it tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'd do it tonight if I could. How's that?
There's still time.
There's
Thank
still
you.
time before 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull consent item number 8 for separate vote then,
Okay.
from
Yeah.
this,
Because we
when we
make
get there.
conditions on it.
All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion on the rest of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Please vote.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to, on one of those items, item number, the very last one, regarding our resolution to support the enterprise zones, I think that's a great thing, and we need the enterprise zones here in the Coachella Valley, and I'm glad to see it on there. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Motion passes. Now, you want to take number 8?
Yes, part of me is compelled to not approve this at all, but given the fact that we're pro-development in here and it's retirement, which is something that's needed, I move approval of consent item number 8 with the conditions that staff provides validation that the soil has been stabilized, the tumbleweeds have been removed, and that looking historically, getting to this point, that activity has occurred in regards to recognizing the PM10 requirements.
Within the 30 days prior to the recordation of the map.
Yes.
Yes.
It's been moved and second. Please vote. Motion passes. Okay. All right, we'll move on to our study session, and that's the Silver Rock Resort financials. Before we get started, unfortunately, I need to say a few words in that, and I apologize for breaking into dealing with Silver Rock, but a couple of things have come up, and it needs to be addressed. Too frequently, we're accused of not giving our constituents and the public all the information. I guess the buzzword is
Transparency.
transparency.
Is that the one you wanted?
And that, yes, and that we've not been doing this, and that. So I want to go through a little dissertation, and that, and this is my own personal opinion, and that I'm not speaking on behalf of the city council or the city staff, and that. Over the last year and a half, we have been inundated by emails and other correspondence complaining on so many different things. The only thing they haven't accused us of is the Kennedy assassination. But it really gets to the point of being close to harassment and that. And I'm concerned that people get the wrong idea of what we're trying to do. In my 20 years here in the city of La Quinta, working with the city, and that I've never known a member of our city council or a member of our staff to stand up here and give false information, or basically lie, about the issues that we're dealing with. to me, it has never happened, and to be accused of this from time and time is not something that I appreciate, and that. You're probably saying, well, what's he talking about? Well, the issue comes up as the end of the first of last week. I got a notice from the Fair Practice Political Practice Commission in Sacramento saying that I violated their ordinances in regards to living in close proximity to Silver Rock, and we're dealing with Silver Rock tonight heavily in that. And this individual, and let's be frank, it's Linda Gannett, and that who is one of these people that continually harasses us with her emails. And that, rest assured, when we started dealing with Silver Rock, 10 years ago?
Oh, goodness.
A long time ago. And that one of the first things I brought forward to is I live in PGA West, which is just south of Silver Rock. And I was cleared by our city attorney that I could participate in the discussions with Silver Rock. And that it was approved that I could do this. Well, the interesting thing, of course, is now I've got a citation from them stating the fact that that I did this without any approvals, and that by this Linda Gannett. And that my problem, that we knew that we were in a good position, that what I did was legal and fair, and that, and the problem that I had was now. This was the end of last week, that I was not going to be able to get any type of information from them saying I was okay or I wasn't okay in that. And so I was put in a catch-22 position, whereas if I stood up here and was part of the determination of Silver Rock in that, I could be accused of jumping the gun before this was approved or disapproved by the state and that. And I was saying, well, you know, should I excuse myself from voting on it? If I did that, then Ms. Gannett could say, well, see, I told you that you're illegal in that. And you have to understand what type of things we get from her. To make it short, and let me finish, the good news is yesterday I got a letter from the Fair Political Practices Commission. And basically, let me read it. It says, as you know, the Enforcement Division of the Fair Political Practice Commission has received a sworn complaint against your client, Mayor Don Adolph. After review of the complaint, the Enforcement Division has decided to close its file on this matter without initiating an enforcement action. So basically, they got the information which basically said she had no case. Again, we're getting down to the point of harassment in that. I think my reason for bringing this up is, again, we're completely often complained by two individuals that we don't have the information that we give that is honest to our constituents in that. And what I'm trying to do is bring this to everybody on the council and in the audience that I have a right to be part of the discussion on Silver Rock. I'm now making sure that it's not coming only from me, but from our city attorney as to what my position was in order to say I was okay to go ahead and proceed.
Right. Well, my office prepared a response to Ms. Gannett's claim, and that's available if anybody would like to get a copy of it. We responded on April 8th to her complaint, and in the complaint we lay out the factual basis, which that the mayor's house is 1,800 feet away from Silver Rock, which is beyond the 500-foot rule, and so it is presumed to be, that there is presumed to be no impact. In addition, we attached to our letter, number one, a letter from the attorney that represents the PGA West Homeowners Association, and that letter explains that the Master Association does not own common area in the normal sense. But more importantly, the city previously obtained an independent real estate professional opinion from Mr. Cathcart, who, and that is also available. That is on file with the city clerk's office, and that goes through from La Quinta Palm Realty in excruciating detail about how the decisions related to Silver Rock, consistent with the existing specific plan, have absolutely no impact whatsoever from a financial standpoint on either the mayor's property behind the gates at PGA West, or even if the HOA property is looked at, it has absolutely no impact, provided all of it that is consistent with the existing specific plan. If there was something like a vote to put a nuclear power plant or something, you would have to revisit that issue. But the determination by Mr. Cathcart, which you are entitled to rely upon, and the FPPC accepted in rejecting Ms. Gannett's claim, is that all of the activities that are envisioned at Silver Rock, including those consistent, the development of the private development parcels, the second golf course, those would have no impact, and that you're cleared to participate in those.
Good. Thank you, Kathy. Again, I apologize for having to go through this and taking your time to do it, but I think it's important that people understand that we're trying to do the right things, and we do it honestly in that. With that, we'll move on now to the study session, and we'll look for a staff report. Edie?
Yes, thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, we are here this evening to discuss the financial status of the Silver Rock Golf Course, to have you be able to look at the revenues and expenditures, questions about depreciation, capital equipment replacement, and the revenue impacts of the two canal options. We're also going to discuss with you tonight several revenue-generating options that you may want to consider. By way of background, the Silver Rock Golf Course was built as a recreation amenity for future hotel development and for residents to enjoy a high-quality golf experience at a reasonable rate. Since the inception of Silver Rock development, the golf course operation was not intended as a stand-alone revenue generator for the city. All of the development and hotel entities that the city had spoken to and worked with since 2000 indicated that a golf course was necessary to anchor desert resort development. With the exception of 2008, Silver Rock has experienced increases in revenues and golf course rounds, and we're here to show that to you this evening.
We've prepared two graphs to tell the story of Silver Rock through the revenues and expenses. The first graph is the rounds that shows the total rounds for each fiscal year. Each fiscal year is broken down into resident play, which is identified with the dark green, and the non-resident play, which is identified with the lighter green. Last year, the resident rounds were 31% of the total rounds played at Silver Rock. When we look at 2005, that's significantly lower than the rest. That's because 2005 wasn't a full year of operation. The golf course was only open from February of 2005 to June 2005, and then we went to the next fiscal year. So we also didn't track any resident play versus non-resident play for that year. It was only in 2005, 2006 that we got a complete year of operation, and we're tracking resident round versus non-resident rounds. As you can see, there's been a steady increase of rounds throughout the 8 years that Silver Rock has been in operation. The last 2 years of this graph that are transparent are projections. The first one being what we're expecting this year to finish out, which is very close to what we did last year, and then the projection based on the annual plan for next year, which will be presented to you later. As Edie has indicated, the only year that we saw a decrease in revenue for the Silver Rock golf operations was in 2008, 2009, which is right here on the golf rounds. What's interesting to note is that in that year, we had just as many rounds as the 2 previous years, and there was an increase in rounds for the year that followed, which tells us that was an indication of the economy impacts on people golfing at the course. They were still golfing at the course, but not paying the posted rates and not spending money in the golf shop and the food and beverage operations. The next graph that we have follows the same pattern as the rounds, but this shows our actual revenues and expenses. Again, the first 8 years showing the audited numbers, and then the last 2 years showing, the last 2 bars showing the projected. The areas that are in black are the actual expenses for the golf course operations. The green line indicates the revenue for each of those years. And you see there is a steady increase, except once again when we get to 2008. When you look at the year before to the year after, there's a $300,000 fluctuation. But again, golf rounds remain constant through that period. Also need to note that between the years of 07, 08 to 10 and 11, those were the years that we hosted the Bob Hope Classic. Whereas it did bring recognition to Silver Rock and La Quinta during those 4 years, and subsequently it brought the Humana Challenge to La Quinta. There was a $400,000 a year impact for each one of those 4 years. Up at the top of each one of these, of the revenue and expenses, there's an area in red. That's depreciation. Depreciation was put in to comply with accepted general accounting practices. Buildings and equipment are factored in here, and the depreciation is charged over the useful life of these items. The clubhouse and maintenance building are depreciated over 30 years, and currently they have about $100,000 a year each in depreciation. Additionally, we have the golf cart lease, which is on a 3-year program, and that's $100,000 a year depreciation. And then the maintenance equipment that was purchased in 2009, which is on $125,000 a year depreciation. Again, when we look at 2005, we'll see that this is not a complete full year of operation, so our revenues are substantially less than our operations. But we do see the increase. To further explain the expenses are the total expenses that were used for the golf operations. This includes the annual plan that's presented by Silver Rock, by Landmark, city administration, staff time, and components that don't fall within Landmark's contract but still relate to the golf course. And also the management fee for Landmark is contained in expenses, as well as the capital reserves. The capital reserves are for repair and replacement of capital items. This is equipment, building repair, and pumps. 2% of the gross revenues are factored into the expenses each year. Currently, we have $483,000 in capital replacement funds. Next year, we're expecting that number to be about $540,000. The equipment that's at Silver Rock, prior to 2009, it was leased to the golf operations and was factored into the depreciation. In 2009, the city purchased the golf course maintenance equipment, and that was decided because when we looked at both the cost to purchase and the life of the equipment versus the lease, there was a $225,000 savings over the life of purchase versus lease. We are expecting to replace a large portion of this equipment in 2014 and 15. When this comes, staff and Landmark will work together to look at what is the best option available. Once again, if it's lease or purchase, and we will also have the trade-in value for the old equipment. Additionally, if the city chooses to purchase this replacement equipment, the capital reserve funds may be used for this. Also like to discuss the advance that has been made to the golf operations. The advance for the term of the 8 years of the golf operations was $5.1 million. the city also charged itself about $200,000 interest, bringing the total up to $5.3 million. So when we look at where this advance is, again, let's go back and look at the first year with the revenues versus expenses for the first, second, third year. This is where a large portion of that advance was brought before the city. Finally, when we get to the end of this graph, we see this final bar here. This is the annual plan that's going to be presented later, and it's a projection, but it does not figure in the impacts of the CBWD canal, because those impacts are unknown at this time. Landmark has provided the city with estimates, and we do know that we do have two options available, parallel versus pipeline, and we do know that the parallel will have the most impact versus the pipeline. We will know more about what these impacts will be when this item is brought before the City Council on May 7th.
The next item that we wanted to talk with you about are revenue alternatives. We have 3 for your consideration this evening, and we want to talk with you about public rates. Public rates are the rack rates that are posted during the year. They are not the resident rates, and we want to be very clear about that. We're not recommending any increases to resident rates. We feel like the decision you made last year about the resident card, increasing the resident card, and looking at where we are, where resident rates are in this market, they're appropriate. And so we went to discussion with Landmark. We said, let's look at other options for that, and that's some of the recommendations you have before you. So with that, we have an increase to public rates and public twilight rates by $5 beginning July 1st. Those golf course fees have not been increased since 2005. By doing this, it would generate between $50,000 and $60,000, and this alternative makes up between 10 and 15% of the green fee rates that we assess. It would impact tournaments, wholesale, resident guests, PGA players, juniors, and replay rounds, but resident rates would not be affected. Another option is to consider a super twilight rate. A super twilight rate would be about 2.5 hours out from sundown. And this would be a rate that would be assessed to those players that would be paying the rack rates. So for example, during peak season, that fee would be approximately $75. This could generate an additional $10,000 to $15,000 annually. And the third option is to take a look at eliminating the 30-minute range fee for practice balls. Right now we have a 30-minute fee of $7. Many of the people play longer or practice longer than the 30 minutes, and it's suggested that we look at a 1-hour rate only of $10. So those are the 3 options, revenue options, that you could do one or all if you think that that's an issue this evening. None of these rates are plugged into the annual plan that we'll be discussing next, but we wanted to give you some revenue options to consider should you want to look at those. So that concludes our staff report on the Silver Rock financials. We wanted to take you through each of those. We know you'll have questions. Steve and I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Robin Bird has assisted us with this staff report, and she could answer the specific finance questions regarding depreciation and the advance. And then we also have the Landmark staff here as well to answer specific golf course management questions. That concludes our staff report, and we'd be happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Edie, Steve. And that questions to staff. Lee, go ahead.
Thank you very much. In respect to the capital reserves is of $483,000, what are the use of those funds designated as?
Those funds are to be used for repair and replacement of items on the property. It can also be used for equipment repair. So for example, when we had a pump go down, it could be used for something like that. It could also be used for equipment replacement.
Because I noticed that later on we'll be talking about the contract with Landmark, and there's language in there regarding items of $5,000 or more for replacement or I guess I would consider major repairs, I don't
Yes.
know. That seems rather small. But anyway, that's what this fund is $483,000.
That's correct, sir.
And those funds continue to grow with the 2% of revenues each year.
Right.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Good.
Thank you.
Christie, anything?
I know that, I think this comes up, and the question I'm going to ask comes up a little bit later, but there was an estimate of $80 and something per round of golf. Then it went to 70, and so, and I understand kind of why that happened, but if we're getting $70 a round and it's costing us 78, the math there doesn't work for me.
One of the ways that Landmark calculates these fees for us is green fees, but also additional costs for people in the pro shop, lessons,
Right.
golf carts, all those other costs that come to calculate the total revenue per round. The total revenue per round that you'll see in this annual plan is $80, and it's made up of the combination of all of those things. The $70 is just the green fee.
Okay. All right, we'll go with the 80, but then that means we're making only $2 a round? It's costing us 78? No?
That's the average round. We have rates, as you know, that go from $30 in the summer to
Yeah.
$165 for public rack rates for tourists that are coming into town. And that wide range is collected throughout the year. So that's an average rate that is
Well,
throughout the year.
I understand that, yeah, and I'm sure that the $80 is an average rate too of the revenue?
Yes, I believe that's the average
Around?
rate, yes.
Okay. Well, averaged out, there's still a $2 gap there. I mean, it seems to me that that's what we're making per round, and that just doesn't seem to add up. But then I want to go to the repayment of the advance, the 5.3, and maybe this is a Robin question. Are we continuing to add interest to that? Is interest compounding on this loan, or being added annually still?
Yes, it's calculated annually on the loan, and we record it separately, but there's a cumulative total for the interest.
Okay. Kathy left, didn't she? I needed to talk to her for a second. Kathy, are you here? No, she's in the back. Okay. It seems to me like, given the thought process that everyone went through to get the Silver Rock course up and rolling, that the money that was expended out of the general account, I'm a little bit curious as to why it was a loan, because this is a city golf course, and do you know what I'm saying? I mean, if we're paying this back, we're paying back ourselves. It just seems kind of silly. But how are you carrying this on the books?
It's carried in the general fund as a receivable, and in Silver Rock's, in the Silver Rock fund, it's a payable, so it's carried just like a loan would be to a separate entity.
I understand that, but it's a loan to ourselves. I mean, I'm paying it back. I just, if we're trying to, if we're trying to be smart about our funds and so forth, I don't see why we're continuing to even carry this on the books as a loan, number one. Number two, certainly adding interest to it just compounds the problem. So I'm talking about you know what I'm talking about, okay. And you said to me one time,
I was working on a DOF email, so.
okay, so you're a little jittery. Well, that's all right. You and I were talking about this one time, and I just found it rather nonsensical, and I believe your statement was that there's no point in paying this back because we're just paying ourselves back for something that we knew we were going to have to do anyway. Money came out of the general fund to do this, and it's working now. I mean, the course is working, and we're moving forward. Why
Well,
are
from,
we continuing
from
to
a
carry
legal,
this?
I mean, we're dealing with one single entity, and I know that I'm not an accountant, and I know that folks do use accounting methods to try to track expenses within one entity, but I think it struck me as odd that the city would loan itself money, you know, and charge interest on it.
Right, that's what I'm
when it's
saying.
all within one legal entity. There's only one legal entity involved.
Okay,
Could-
so,
Could I
yeah, absolutely.
Could I- yeah.
It puzzles me.
Yeah, well, if you were here, and I think you probably would have gone along with the program, if you will.
Yeah.
At the time, of course, we had a redevelopment agency, and we had plans for the second hotel and the second golf course to be up and running, which would be supplying more revenue stream
Right.
over there. So in essence, once you have more golf play, there would be a time when the enterprise of Silver Rock could have repaid the loan to the general fund.
I understand all that.
Well, okay, well,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
that, because you asked, you didn't understand
Yeah.
why this all.
No, I don't understand why we're continuing to do it.
Oh.
I understand the thought process
Oh,
at the beginning.
It sounded.
But why we're still doing it, I don't get
Okay,
that.
and I agree.
Yeah, no,
that- but-
your thought process was completely right, and the TOT generated was the amount that we needed the golf course to generate that sort of TOT.
Right,
But
but
then
it
again,
sounded
if
like
you're-
you said
yeah.
earlier that you didn't understand where this came
Nah,
from.
well,
or-
I probably did, but that part I do understand, but I just don't understand what is the necessity to keep it. Why do we have to do that? Yes,
Ken,
I'm
thank you.
looking at you.
The reason we would keep it on there is to have an accurate understanding of the total cost for Silver Rock, including covering the losses in the early years. So what is the actual total cost, not just the capital cost of Silver Rock, but the operating cost of Silver Rock over its time? We created that advance. Now, one thing I would suggest is at least we actually pay that interest. If we're not going to remove it, we should actually pay it. And at this point, Silver Rock does create its own positive cash flow, including the reserves that are being
We're starting to do that.
created. So if anything, we at least pay that interest. But that's it, just to have a real accurate picture of what it really did cost, including funding the losses in the early years.
Okay, and I can see that, but why do we need to keep it on the books as a loan? That is accumulating
As
interest?
originally stated, it's just a generally accepted accounting principle. It's
But
those
can
darn
we-
accountants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to continue to
Sorry,
do
Robert.
that? I'm asking, do we need to continue
And
to
I'm
keep this on the
not
books?
sure that I would call that a loss. That was all startup cost,
Right.
really. It was,
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't
Yeah.
that we opened it and then we took an immediate loss. It was startup cost to get, you know, the whole
Yeah.
thing operating.
Get
So,
started, yeah.
yeah.
So we made a loan to ourselves
Yeah,
to keep,
there-
and we understand what all the costs were now. My point is, why do we need to,
Continue.
yes.
So
It's the
what
same
would
program.
happen if tomorrow we decided to sell Silver Rock to a developer,
Then we would include that $5 million.
which we've accounted for separately as its own
Right.
business unit, so we can track accordingly? So there's some value of having that as a standalone as we progress in the event there's different operators, owners, what have you, in the process of developing that resort destination, perhaps.
If I could say one other thing about that, is the general fund has no restrictions on how that money's spent. If we were to forgive that loan and then the revenues just flow into the Silver Rock enterprise, we're limited as to what we can spend that money for. So instead of having $5 million that you can spend on needs that the city may have, you can only spend this money now at Silver Rock.
Okay,
I think that's a big consideration.
Just
Right.
leave it as it is.
okay.
But I would again suggest that we at least pay that interest versus just simply accruing it and recognizing it should be paid at some point in the future.
Yeah,
I believe we should actually
sure.
pay it, and I think now's a good time, since, again, we do have a positive cash flow on the operation.
Sure. Agreed.
But
So Silver Rock's going to pay the city's,
Interest on its advance of $5 million, and those funds will
Out of
be
its
additional
proceeds.
funding for our general fund.
Sure.
So Silver Rock will start paying back its advances via the interest, at least start paying back the interest. And then once we get the grand hotels and substantial amount of bed tax that's being promised, I'm sure we can pay back the rest of the $5 million. I'm sure they'll assure us of that with the success of their projects.
so we're going to pay ourselves back money.
That's positive
But
thinking.
it's a
Kind of like
different
kids and parents.
Because it's a different color money.
Okay, all righty,
Just that it
thank
all
you.
comes back to us as green.
All right, I got it,
We're
okay.
just rotating it around.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
good.
thank you, Robin.
Terry, questions?
I have no questions on this now. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Linda?
Yeah, I've got a couple simpler questions than Christie's. On the 30-minute range fee, you indicated that people typically stay more than 30 minutes, so are we not then charging them another $7? So if we say it's $10 an hour, we're taking a reduction, or we're not charging them the $7 when they stay kind of over?
You know, I'm going to let Randy answer that question because he's the one
Because
actually
we're that
collecting the
customer
revenues
service
out there
oriented.
and dealing with the
Hello.
Hi, Randy.
Yeah, it's, when someone comes in, they pay the $7 half-hour range fee. It pretty much is on the honor system. We do have staff that monitors it, but there are people that take advantage of it. So what we're trying to do is just circumvent that and just charge the one fee, $10 for an hour. It's easy to track, and that way people aren't inclined to manipulate it as much.
This, Randy, this is strictly somebody wants to go out and hit golf
Yeah, they're not
balls.
playing golf.
Not playing golf.
It's
If
a
they're playing
bucket of
golf,
balls
The
fee.
range is
Right.
included.
Okay.
This
And we-
is just for someone that wants to come out and use the range.
And we don't charge bucket of balls, we charge 30 minutes.
By the
Pretty.
time, yeah, we
Yeah.
provide the balls on the range already, and it's all by time.
Okay.
Can I do a follow-up question on that? Because it's the honor system, what happens if I go out and pay for $10 and at half hour I get awful tired and my buddy walks by and I say, "You want my other half hour?" Now, have we gained a customer or lost a customer?
Well,
Both.
that can't happen because everyone needs to go through the golf shop first before they get to the driving range because of the logistics. It's about 1,000 yards away.
Yes,
so,
it's a ways away.
Yes, it is.
And really, what's the average time? How many balls are people hitting in 30 minutes? Depends on
Depends.
form, club. I mean, yeah, so I clearly support increasing it to $10 for the hour. I mean, that's, give them some time to be there, and then they're going to want to eat and shop and get thirsty and buy
After
things.
30 minutes, I'm tired. I want to go out on the
That's,
course.
well, or that, exactly. As far as the proposed revenue increases, I mean, I support them all. I'm looking at the same thing Christy was saying. If we're only really yielding $2 around, we need to increase those. And I don't want to impact the resident rates because we already did the card increase, actually 2 years in a row, not just one. So that will help us get to that deficit. If we look at our depreciation inclusion of deficit, we're still about 251,000 under. But Edie, you did not talk about the potential expense reductions. And given that we're going to have to make investments in the next couple years, I'm not sure reducing our capital reserve from 2% to 1%, I don't know if that's wise, but I do want to strongly take a look at the marketing. I know that's going to come up in the plan part, but based on that discussion, it might yield more than a 10 or 15,000 reduction, depending on how we can do some economies of scale.
It's going to depend on which option you choose, and they still have to, when we're talking about the canal right now, we're talking, I think she's referring to the section in the report about the canal.
Yeah.
And what we're talking
No.
about here is,
No?
No?
No, you've got revenue expense, or expense reductions, and it's capital reserves to decrease to 1%. That would yield possibly 30,000, and a reduction in the marketing. Page 9. After we indicate that every other city's rates are less than ours, and I don't know how they're making it if they're not increasing their resident rates.
in the attachments, I'm sorry. Okay,
Attachment 4, I guess it is.
okay.
And Lee, what's your thought on that in terms of
You know,
2% to 1%?
If we reduce our capital reserve to 1%, and if Silver Rock starts paying interest on that advance, then put that interest in the reserve.
That's another
There you
option.
go. Okay, so we can reduce it to 1, and then
1%, but
use, okay, I like that.
We're gonna pay the
So we're still getting what we need for replacement items?
That's our reserve.
Sure.
Okay.
Why not?
All right, I like it. And then we still need to take a look at marketing, I think, and we'll discuss that during the plan, but.
We'll
we
talk
have-
about that next.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but we need to look at, I think, I support moving in the direction of the suggested revenue increases, including the $10.
It's minimal.
It's minimal. And it's, yeah. it's not going to impact.
I do think that there could be some kind of fallout on paying that interest payment back a year, every year. That's quite an expense. If you look how tight this budget is.
Right.
That's quite an expense that's being taken on there.
Well,
It is.
And it's not really being covered with a tremendous amount of any kind of new revenue.
It may be more than $5 now.
Yeah, depending on the interest rate we charge, obviously, if we're looking at 3%, 150,000.
I thought it was 7%. Didn't I see?
No, I don't think it indicated
I don't think
that
we
there was an
indicated
interest
that. My
percentage.
understanding was that it's whatever the leaf rate is.
And the life rate's substantially lower than that.
That's right, it's
Yeah,
low.
substantially.
The issue is, though, and we're right, as we go into these discussions, this last year was the first year that we actually didn't contribute to the advance. So we're slowly making our way. We can make small payments toward the interest, but it won't fully pay for that. And I don't want to pretend to you that it will. We'll put these things in place and take a look at that, but Councilmember Henderson's right. We have a pretty tight budget, and we're going to be looking at some options with the canal. So, and
Yeah,
those
that's
haven't
a
been
whole
discussed yet.
But if we
thoroughly.
went down that path to do the loan to ourselves with an interest rate, then that, you've got to paint the truer picture.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
So you're right. I mean, it's a small margin, and it's not going to fare well in terms of black and red, but if that's the situation that we put upon ourselves, we should track it in such a way to adjust what we would normally adjust in increased revenues and reduced expenses to get to where we need to be.
That's fine. We should track it then. We are tracking it.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, a question while we have
It's
Randy up here.
accumulating.
Yeah.
Randy, within this report, we're talking about 47,000 rounds a year. Now, given I'm sure there's time during the summer when it's a little warm outside, is that really the comfortable maximum amount of rounds we could play on Silver Rock?
Do you think we've maxed out?
I mean, during the season, yes. I mean, we're maxed out. I mean, there's times when we're turning people away several times a day.
Right.
And you literally cannot put any more people on the course. And like you said, there's some room maybe in the summertime, sometimes in the shoulder season, but yeah, as far as the season time goes, we're maxed out.
Okay.
Yeah. You can only get them off every
Yeah.
6 minutes or
So, I
7
mean, at
minutes.
some point, we're
That's
going to
it.
hit our limit,
Yeah.
from a revenue standpoint, other than these small increases. I'm in support 100% on these small increases. but
Right.
Sure.
that's
So I
my
guess,
concern is-
Again, minimal.
Right.
Yeah.
so another follow-up question based on Lee's, later on in the annual report, the management Silver Rock plan, it indicates the importance of tournaments and how critical they are to the course overall. How many tournaments are we doing at that course now? What would be the ideal number? And if you increase those, would then that decrease your round capacity?
The tournament play at Silver Rock is not that significant, mostly because we don't have the hotel component. We lose a lot of that business because
The
they're
restaurant.
lost to the
Feeding
Quinta
them
Hotel, the
afterwards.
Westons, or the Hyatts, or the Esmeralda. We're doing approximately, in season time, we're doing, depending on the size, we're doing 12 tournaments a month.
Wow.
And they range
That's a lot.
from, 20 golfers, or actually a
How come-
group is considered anything more than 12 players.
Okay.
Up to 144.
So you've got a number of them. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was that many.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we still have the high school coming in?
We have the La Quinta High School boys, and also the girls will come in as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what it's there for.
On the average, how many tournaments do you do that are 144?
Maybe once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rare.
So they're significantly less. So would they average out at about 70 maybe, or
No,
80?
I'd say our average is probably between 30 and 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Randy, a couple of questions. Number one, we're looking at equipment coming up and that. What is your position on it? Best to own it or to lease it?
Boy, that's hard to say right now. I think you got to look at a lot of different variables, interest rates, as Steve was alluding to earlier. I think you know, come next year, next summer, we'll look at the interest rates and see which is the best way to go. It's really hard to say. And they both have their pros and cons.
When we lease equipment, are we responsible for the day-to-day maintenance
Oh,
on it?
yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no difference as far
Basically,
as...
they just lease it, and then you take care of it until the lease is up and you return the equipment.
Correct.
What happens if you have a major breakdown on a piece of equipment?
Then a lot of it's under warranty. A lot of the major stuff's under warranty. But we have a full-time mechanic at the golf
No,
course.
I know that we do. I just wondered whether if you had a major breakdown, like an automobile, you blow an engine, and that, are they responsible for that engine? The
If it was
leasing
under
company?
warranty, they would, yes, they would. Yeah.
Okay.
In either scenario, lease or buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I continue to hear good reports from Silver Rock, the people that play it. And unfortunately, I've got 6 other courses to play, so I don't get out there very often, but I hear a lot of good comments on it. So apparently, your staff's doing a wonderful job keeping and maintaining the course in good condition.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that, so. Okay, thanks, Randy.
Okay, thank you.
And that, with that, any other questions from
Study
staff?
session, we're done.
Yeah, study session, we're done.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to seek clarification on the recommendations for revenue enhancements.
I think we
want to hear enough voices out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
that we don't have a problem with minimal
Very good. Thank you.
increases. Okay, we'll move on to our business session, and we have 3 this evening. The first one is the Silver Rock Resort, the annual plan.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of City Council. This is the 2013-2014 annual plan as submitted by Landmark Golf Management. This annual plan shows operating expenses of $3,533,000 and revenues of $3,739,000 for a net operating surplus of $206,000. In addition to the golf course annual plan, there are also city expenditures for city staff, facility maintenance repair, bank charges, equipment and vehicle operations. With these additional expenditures, the Silver Rock net operating surplus for 2013 is projected to be $86,158. The food and beverage service for Silver Rock is not recognized in the annual plan because it is recognized under a separate food and beverage agreement. The summary of this annual plan is the assumptions is 46,710 rounds of play, an average projected revenue per round of $80. A 2% capital reserve for $65,885, and a management increase from $90 to $96,000 for the first 2 years, and then a 4% increase for years 3, 4, and 5. There's a marketing component for this annual plan. They're listed on pages 20 and 21 and budgeted for $239,552. This marketing plan will promote Silver Rock as a premier golf destination through the newspapers, magazines, directories, internet, television, and radio. So that concludes the staff report, and as we discussed in the study session, this does not include the canal relocation, the revenue increases that were recommended by City Council, and the lowering of the capital reserve. This concludes my staff report.
Good. Thank you, Steve. Edie? And then, Linda? Sure.
$32,000 seems high for bank fees. Is that a per transaction, or is there something that we get economies of scale with all the other things that we have bank transaction fees? Is anybody?
That's what actually occurs, is that it's based on a percentage, isn't it? Credit card fees. Yeah, it's credit card fees.
Just running the card?
Yes. Yeah, and those are based on historical numbers.
Seems very high to me. I don't know. Let's see, other questions I have are in regards to the marketing budget and/or marketing plan. Let me go to those back pages. What was the budget for this year, and/or how has it been averaging? Because we did a 50% reduction in city's overall marketing. So how does that equate to what Landmark has, or what Silver Rock has represented the last couple years in marketing?
This year's budget was for their annual plan was $245,000. There were no changes to the annual plan as part of the budget. Because it's separate from the general fund and it was treated as an enterprise fund, we didn't do anything or require any reductions. We looked at some revenue generating ideas which were implemented last year, and other than that, there were no, there wasn't a 15% reduction like the activities we saw in the general fund.
Or 50% in regards to marketing?
Or 50% in marketing.
Okay. When you look at the advertising, one of the things that it seems like we've captured quite well is the local resident market that people clearly know about Silver Rock and are playing, yet the majority of our advertising still seems to be more localized, even including the television. And I'm just wondering that if the goal is to attract tourism and work that higher rack rate into the mix, that there should be a concentrated effort on reducing local and increasing more of the outside regional LA Orange County Drive market.
I'm going to have the Landmark staff come up and talk to you specifically about some of the components that they're going to be implementing for next year, and Randy can speak to their online services and how they're increasing that.
Yeah, in terms of marketing, obviously we try to hit the local markets, but we also try to hit the LA market, San Diego market, and a lot of the feeder markets. We do a lot of business with the Canadians, so we try to get in some print publications up in Canada, Pacific Northwest, and also Chicago is very, very popular.
I'm sorry, you do that in coordination with CVB a lot of the time, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
And obviously we have our own media buy, so
Right.
it's all separate.
Okay.
We've created our new Facebook page this year. We were under the city's Facebook page, but this year we started our own. We're doing YouTube, do a lot of business with Golf Now. We've got some more exposure with Yelp, greenskeeper.org. We're doing some national website advertising. The Silver Rock app's been very popular. Email marketing. But probably the biggest one that we've seen is the word of mouth advertising. It's been tremendous, so.
And that's free.
I mean, I think we're doing something right. We're getting to 47,000 pounds.
I never, I'm the one that never wants to reduce marketing dollars because that's my other line of business and it's near and dear. But one of the things I think should be added to the plan is the whole social media section, because I have seen and I've liked the Silver Rock page, and yet none of that has been updated in this plan except for the website and email marketing. But with the Yelp and all those components, I think that needs to hold concentrated effort, because that's still a lot of value, again, with little cost.
Right.
That if you're getting a lot of exposure there, and that's still a lot of that word of mouth via social media,
Sure.
it lends itself to be able to reduce the dollars being spent on some of the other mediums. So that's my only, I don't have questions per se on that. I just would like to see perhaps a shift and definitely an inclusion in the social media, because you guys have done a great job trying to get that component out, and it wasn't on here, so we need to add it.
You're right.
Okay.
The Silver
Thank you.
Rock app is awesome.
It is.
Thank you.
It's just awesome. Love it.
Yeah, okay. Terry?
Well, relationships come and go, and I think we made a really wise choice about 10 or 11 years ago. It's been a long run. You guys have done, I think, a fabulous job. You've brought the course along pretty much the way planned, and you've hung in there through the tough and the rumble. But one of the things that I don't think you hear from us up here is the mayor reading a letter griping about Silver Rock. I mean, there's been a couple through the years. That's going to happen.
Right.
But by golly, all in all, it's compliment after compliment, and I don't question this annual plan in any way. I think you've done a super job. I think you'll continue to do a super job, and I thank you for that. And your history with La Quinta and the whole Coachella Valley, it shows.
Thank you.
So thank you.
You bet. Lee?
Well, the one question I have here, and it's not as much from a financial standpoint, because you guys have a great handle on that. Your financial reports that we get on a regular basis are outstanding. But my question regarding Silver Rock is the land. There are pieces of land that are along the mountainside that we don't know who they belong to. At one point, we thought it was KSL. At one point, we thought it may have been somebody else. But there are areas along, is it the 14 or the 15? 15, that if we were able to move that canal out, you know, I'd like to be able to find out who owns that land so we can take that land over and purchase it or whatever is need be, and so we can include that on the course. And so I don't know where our city left off in looking in the research on who owns those small parcels, but it'd be nice if we could include this into Silver Rock.
Basically, when KSL owned the mountain, that property there was part of their holdings.
Yeah.
When KSL then packaged everything up and sold it, the property went off, and we were not, at the time we started looking at this to see about expanding that whole, we couldn't figure out if KSL owned it or some other entity owned it. So at that point, the thoughts to expand the whole were abandoned, and we just left that probably a good 5+ years ago.
Right.
So at this point, we could do a new title search to see about that. One of the challenges that we will always have to look at is in this new brave world we're in, where would we get the money to buy the land? Because when we got into discussions with KSL before about the entire mountain going up to the ridge line, we said, you know, you can't develop this, so why don't you donate it to us and you can get some sort of tax break. Well, the year after, the year we started the discussions, the feds removed that tax break, and so they lost interest and it never went anywhere. So we certainly could look at it. We'd have to figure out a strategy of how to pay for it.
At least to find out who owns it.
Yes.
And then we can find out, you know, what the value is and what our options may be. But it would be nice to be able to include, especially given the question of what's going to happen with the canal.
Yeah.
If the canal is moved, I think it would add that much more.
One of the other balancing acts we deal with those properties is the fact that it gets into the bighorn habitat, and particularly in that location, it may be more of an environmentally sensitive area, so we'll look into that aspect also.
Okay. Thank you.
Speaking of that, I ran into Shannon at Figue's soft opening and that, and I again asked him the question, why don't you donate that land to the city of La Quinta and that? And he kind of said, well, we kind of forgot about it and that. Of course, he's in Colorado now and that, but with them coming back in, meaning Kravitz coming back in at PGA West and that maybe we should go after them about taking over at least to the toe of the slope, right, following the slope around and that, because they can't use the land for anything else. What's it good for?
Absolutely not.
We actually got clearance from the environmental. In fact, I think the multi-species plan might have us covered in there for halfway up the mountain.
Yeah.
So that we could, you know, maybe
We talked about a trail.
Well, we
put
talked about a
little
trail.
Yeah, a trail
there.
up there.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that stands after all these years.
Yeah, I don't want trails on the golf course.
No, this was going to be on the mountain.
Okay. All right,
How you
Lee,
got there,
anything
I
else?
don't know.
Okay, Christie?
Quick question. On page 1, when you're talking about a net surplus for year 2013-14 to be $86,000, does that figure include depreciation?
No, it doesn't.
So it's not going to be a net surplus then? I mean, it's not going to be a surplus.
That's right.
It's going to
Minus
be a
depreciation.
cash surplus, but a
Yes.
depreciation loss.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just asking. That figure included depreciation.
That's right.
And it
It'll
doesn't.
look just like the charts up here.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
Good. Okay. Randy, I don't have anything else, and that, again, as Terry said, I think you guys are doing a wonderful job out there. We're happy. I hear nothing but good remarks in the golfing community. Many of my members at PGA West are members there at Silver Rock too, and when they play it, I hear about it. And basically thanking the city for having a great facility out there. So.
Well, we try every day to make you guys very proud of the property. I mean, we are, obviously, so,
Yeah.
and I think it shows in our staff.
Yeah. Good.
We ready for motion?
Yes.
Okay, I move approval of the Silver Rock Resort 2013-2014 annual plan as submitted by Landmark Golf Management LLC.
Second.
All right, I would like to amend that motion with the revisiting of the marketing plan from a dollar perspective, allocation, local versus tourism, and adding the component of social media prior to.
Any problem with that?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Did you second that? by the way?
It was second.
Terry did.
Somebody-
Okay,
Sorry.
motion and second. Please vote. Okay, motion passes. We'll move on to our second business item, and that's Silver Rock Golf Course Management Agreement with Landmark Golf Management LLC. Staff report?
Yes, thank you. This issue is for your consideration, the Golf Course Management Agreement. The current agreement expires June 30th of this year. A new management agreement is before you this evening. There are some changes to the management fee. That fee has been $90,000 since 2005. And in our negotiations with Landmark, they would like the city to consider increasing that fee to $96,000 for years 1 and 2 of the 5-year agreement. And then for years 3, 4, and 5, it would be increased by 4%. We also recognize that the canal relocation will impact some course design, operations, and maintenance issues, along with the irrigation system. We also believe that Landmark is the best company to be able to help us work through that. They're very familiar with irrigation systems. They're very familiar, and they were involved initially in the golf course design elements, and they will be able to facilitate a smooth transition back to the operation once the canal is completed. Other items, just for your information, but also for the audience, the contract includes all operations for the golf management, which is daily operations of the 18-hole golf course, the driving range, the clubhouse, and the maintenance facility. Staff provided other rates for you to review, both at Palm Desert and Indian Wells, so you can compare prices and what's being paid. On December 4th of last year, the council took a look at this question. We brought this forward, and the council had authorized the staff to go into negotiations for a new 5-year agreement with Landmark. And because of Landmark's excellent performance, their low management fee, knowledge and expertise, both for the daily operations and for their ability to help us with that canal relocation, the staff is recommending this agreement. That concludes our staff report. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edie. Christie? Lee?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I don't see a problem in respect to the contract and respect to Landmark. I think, as has been stated numerous times, Landmark has done an outstanding job from day one. And and as the mayor stated, you know, we get numerous comments regarding how much people appreciate Landmark and how beautiful an area it is. Though it's a bit challenging for some of us, but it's still a beautiful course. And I remember we wanted to make sure it was long, and we certainly did that.
Well,
We
that was for the
made it
pros.
long. Yeah, for the
Not for us.
4 times. My concern, though, is 2 things. One, regarding 5 years. We're going to have some major changes going on at Silver Rock. And whether that is the development of Silver Rock and the new hotels, plural, and then potentially a new course as well, I'm concerned that with the hotels that may be coming out there, if there's going to be some challenges from a standpoint of control of Silver Rock, and that if we need to go out 5 years, or we should back that up a little bit to maybe go 2 or 3 years to see, once we have an actual hotel development out there and the flag out there, is that group going to want to have more control on Silver Rock? I am very concerned that we won't have enough room on Silver Rock for a hotel in the short term. We've got a couple different proposals from building a second course or second 9. But if we're already at 47,000 rounds on Silver Rock, we're not going to have any room on that course for a hotel until that second one's built. So I'm concerned that, I mean, Landmark's doing a great job. I don't have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with, if we build this hotel, where are they going to play until we have that second course? And that whoever that hotelier is, are they going to want to have more control with Silver Rock? And whether they're able to work within Landmark or they're going to want to go outside of Landmark, I don't know. but my concern is, do we want to go 5 years at this point in time with everything coming up? The second thing I wanted to bring up is regarding that contract with a 4% increase annually for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th years. I don't have a problem at all changing their current management fee from $90,000 to $96,000. How they've been able to do that for as many years as they have, I'm impressed that they've been able to do it for only $90,000. But to give them a 4% increase every year for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th years seems a bit, could be a bit high, but we don't know where inflation's going to go. We don't know where the cost of living is going to go. And I wanted to throw it out there that maybe we look at the cost of living increases or adjustments, and maybe we say no less than 3, but no greater than 4 over that same 3-year period. That's my concern on the contract. And one thing I brought up earlier regarding page 3, item 1.11, golf course expenses. The manager provided that any such unplanned expense not included in the annual plan, which exceeds $5,000, must have prior written approval from the city manager. 5,000 is a pretty small number. If your budget's over, almost 3.4 million, 5,000 seems pretty small. And so, I mean, you got to fix a mower that's going to cost you more than $5,000, I would imagine. So I think that number's too low. I think, we should, we can make it $10,000 and give them a little room. They know what they're doing. I'm good with, to double that to $10,000.
Yeah.
But I just have the other concerns as stated. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Jared?
Well, Lee, you brought up a lot of, interesting points, and I'm sure a lot of things that's on all of our minds going forward. We have multiple decisions facing us. The canal relocation, the economy in general, the second golf course, hotels, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. And the only thing that can actually be consistent with stability is the operator of the existing course that's there, that is providing that kind of service to our community. And probably one of the most knowledgeable organizations, at least in the Coachella Valley, and at least in the state, and probably nationwide, in knowing how to go through this building and development process. Think about the background and the history of the folks we're working with. Who better to have on our site than folks who know from the ground up all of the problems that could arise? Right. And so I really am comfortable with the 5 years. I'm comfortable knowing that's who's going to be there. And if there are issues between conflicting operators or something, you know what, that'll have to play out in the future. And I don't think we're going to see a second golf course or hotel rooms for 3 years anyway. And I'm not sure if the 3 years is, so I just assume lock them up. And then if there's a squabble out there between them, the other guys will have to wait till the 2 years is up, and then we'll go out to bid. But, so I'm comfortable with it, and I'm certainly comfortable raising this $5,000 to $10,000.
So you're saying lock Andy up?
Yep, I'm saying lock, well, not with bars in front of them, but yes, I think it's a good move.
Okay. Linda?
Sure. A couple questions and I guess comments. I mean, I agree, Landmark has done a stellar job, and I think the partnership is very much an accountability and a loyalty factor. There's so much pride that they represent out there on our behalves that's it's very valuable, and it's reflected in all the resident comments and the amount of cards we're selling and rounds we're doing, and we can go on and on. A lot of the accolades that have been received from various golf magazines on it being one of the top ranked courses, I mean, that's a given.
And even their food service.
And even their food service, exactly.
Even their food.
I asked staff to do a what-if scenario on the increase, because when we look at everything we've been talking about from a budget standpoint and how we're reducing budget, and all of a sudden we're looking at a 6.7% increase, and it seems high when we're trying to do everything in our power to reduce expenses. And I asked them to go back in 2 scenarios. If we had done a 2% increase since the beginning of our contract with Landmark back in '04, at 2% per year, we would be at 107,558 right now. We're only paying 90,000 a year right now. When we look at us not raising it and now raising it to 96, it would have been a 0.72% increase every year to get to the 96 that we're contemplating today. So I'm very comfortable with knowing that they provided the resources and the management and recognized some of the challenges we had financially and didn't ask for increases when it was really tough. And I'm okay increasing that 6.7%. But when we look at the 4% per year for the next 5 years, we're going to be up in the 108,000 range pretty quickly. So I'm
That's
thinking
still
of a
way
seat.
below the others.
It's still way below. We still have one course versus two, but
Yeah.
in all. So I don't know. I would consider maybe doing a CPI increase with a cap of 3%. So it stays within market, and if we have to go through another wave of how do we reduce costs, that's the challenge of being locked into 5 years. We won't have that flexibility at the end of a 2 or 3 year agreement to say, hey, can we hold off on an increase because we've already got contractually obligated to do it. I see Lee's point on what happens if, and I see your point of having that stability and that knowledge, but I guess I would propose, maybe consider 3 years with another 2-year option, so we have that, we can gauge it. But I also think we should consider at some point a separate consulting agreement as we start redoing this golf course and the canal thing happens, that's completely outside the management, because they've got to manage the course no matter what condition it's in. It's that other expertise that they bring to the table on re-navigating holes and routes and still maximizing rounds and doing nines twice, that I think is worth a separate thing, whether it's with them or some other consulting firm on golf courses. So yes, 96, possibly a change in the 2%, maybe a 3-year with a 2-year option, and then consider all of the other stuff we're going to need them for when it really comes down to the canal piece. That is a separate thing that can be carved out. If there was another golf manager, those could be 2 different players. And that would yield potentially the difference of some of the increase that they're looking to lock in for 5 years.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
Well, I was going along with your math there. So they would have been at 107,000 now had we done that.
2% per year.
Right. Which is okay. So at the beginning of the 4th year, they're going to be at 107 plus a little bit thousand.
Well, the
So-
96 is for 2 years, so you're...
No, I did the math on this, yeah.
900, 370.
Yeah, okay. So I was thinking that you were thinking, well, we've gotten a pretty good deal.
We have gotten a great deal.
Okay,
By the
so
way.
I'm all about just the way it's written. I think they are worth every penny, and what we're going to go through over the next, as you said, it's going to be 3 years before anything comes up
Sure.
anyway.
Sure.
I can't even, I think it would be our worst nightmare to try and bring somebody else in and to give them a 3-year contract with, 2 years on a consultant. I can't go along with that. I think they've done an excellent job, and they deserve every penny of it. And it's peace of mind for us. I mean, that's one thing we don't have to sweat right now. So I can't go along with you. I like it just the way it is. I think it's good.
Yeah, and I agree with Christie in that they've done a wonderful job, and I wish they were still managing PGA West, and that because they are managers and they're golf people, they know what they're doing, and some of the people that we've had out there, they really just don't know golf, and that it's to us that pay the tab, and that. It's not been the best of situations, so no, I support Landmark on this. They do a wonderful job.
So I have one follow-up question then. Is it an expectation or part of the conditions that they are providing consulting services during the canal relocation?
They're
Or
going,
because of their knowledge that will just benefit us even more under this contract?
if we need them for very specific services, it would be part of what Tim would be doing in Public Works, and they would be under contract for specific things additionally. This contract is for
The management.
operation and maintenance and getting the course back up to speed with whatever decision you make on the canal.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll have major input as to
They will.
how we can reconfigure that once that canal's out of there, because they're the experts on it, and to actually, hopefully, improve the golf course and that.
That's what we'd
With
like to see.
the open space, more open space that we will have once that canal's out of there.
Are we ready for a motion?
I am.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve a 5-year golf course management agreement with Landmark Golf Management LLC.
Been moved and second. Please vote. Motion passes.
I need 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll move on to the last business session item that we have, and that's selection of Silver Rock developer.
I need 5 minutes.
Oh, well, excuse me, I've been asked to ask for a 5-minute break?
That'd be great.
Okay, we're going to recess for 5 minutes.
Thank you.